Servus and welcome. My name is Fireball313 and this is another video of Beyond the Game. Today the NES Mini Classic is the main attraction of this video. And that was the first mini console of Nintendo what got released. And the release date was November 11, 2006. The price of this unit was back then 60 euro. And you can guys imagine when it came out on the market, it was immediately an instant success. It was even so successful that later, some couple of years ago, Nintendo released a Super Nintendo version, and some other companies like Sega, SNK, and Sony started to attempt to produce their own mini console to jump on this hype train what Nintendo produced, by coincidence or not. What is really important to know is there's no original hardware in this console. Everything is emulated, all the 30 games are emulated, and this emulator is actually made by Nintendo themselves, actually, and this is one of the quite most accurate emulator you can get for the NES. If you are interested what kind of hardware is inside, it's basically an ARM Cortex A7 quad-core processor with 2 GHz and 512 MB flash memory, so for all the games, what you can find there. Yeah. First, what we do, the video will be in two parts. Actually, the first is we take this unit out, we look at the unit, and I show you what you can get for your money. And then we make a comparison with the original NES. I have mine here also. And then I move here to my television, and then I will present you all the 40 games and tell you a little bit about what I think and feel in this case. Yeah, so, but first, this is the front of it, and it tells you already that 30 games are pre-installed. And important also, there is no AC adapter included. There's an HDMI cable and a cable for electricity, but not the adapter itself. But you can use it just for your cell phone. That's the side of it. Not really spectacular. This is the top. And that is the back. And then 30 classic games pre-installed, and they just make some highlights here. Super Mario Bros., Super Mario Bros. 3, Final Fantasy, The Legend of Zelda, Pac-Man, Castlevania, Ninja Gaiden, Metroid, Kirby's Adventure, Donkey Kong, Mega Man 2, Punch-Out, and more titles you can see here. Super Mario Bros. 2, Balloon Fight, Zelda 2, Ghosts and Goblins, Startropics, Kid Icarus, yeah, stuff like that. So, yeah. Let's open this unit. Let me see. Yeah. And what a surprise, we get a manual, actually. This is really unusual. Let me put this on side, and then let's first check the manual. What we do have here, operation manual. So, yeah, and it's in English, and of course, again, important, original Nintendo seal of quality. And what we have, health and safety information, okay, not so important. Using the console, getting started. And yeah, then you see actually there's a controller with the console, of course, and that is quite interesting. The connection is from the nunchuck, you know, and then you see how you can connect it to your television, and what the power and the reset button do. And that's actually it, and it's in different languages, so not really extraordinary, unfortunately. Yeah, what a shame. Let me first put this back, and then we move to the console. So, and then, come on, get out. There's the console, and this is quite fascinating, actually. It's really, really small, and yeah, the detail of it is quite extraordinary, and soon we will compare it with the original NES. yeah, actually the quality of the plastic is really, really good, and the feel is really almost like the same with the original NES. And then you can power it on, off, and you have the reset button. Reset button, of course, feels a little bit different, and then you can see the connection for the controllers, what is based on the nunchuck. Crazy, I think. Yeah, but okay. So wait, let me put this there. What else we get in the package? Yes, of course, the controller. And here you guys can see. Unfortunately, I don't have a nunchuck now at my disposal here, so you can see this. It's really the nunchuck. So technically, you could connect this to the Wii remote, and that is the NES controller. And yeah, and the buttons and the feel, everything is quite the same. Yes, and feels really, really good. So very accurate, I must say. And beside that, of course, I can show you guys, you get the HDMI and the cable for electricity, just standard stuff, but this is not so important yet. So wait, let me first, and now I want to do a first comparison. Let me put the controller aside. It's the original cartridge of Super Mario Brothers. And I want to compare it, actually. I put it just next to each other, and then you guys can see, actually, the difference already. So, yeah, so you can see the console is smaller than the cartridge. Fascinating, yes. So, now I have my original NES here. So, and now, really good comparison. Look, guys, that's Papa NES and that is Mama NES. And that is really, it's crazy, really crazy, yeah. So now you can see the details, and from top it looks really the same. In front, yeah, I mean the connections, of course, a little bit different. The numbers are the same, but you can guys see. And when I press the reset button, of course, this feels different. Of course, when I press this one in, yeah, this feels the same also. Yeah, and of course, here you open the lid to put the game in. Here it's impossible, you can't open it. But it gives this impression that you have this lid. Yeah. So, and on the side, I mean, there's, yes, you can see that is this here, this groove. You don't have that on the Mini. And on the back, of course, the connections are different. You know, here's electricity, here's for the channels, and here's the connection to the television. Of course, you don't have that, and there's a huge not sticker, print of HDMI, what you don't have here. And then, of course, this groove also, what you don't have. So, and beside that, yeah, here you have the connection for audio and video, actually. And here you don't have because of HDMI. When I turn it on his head, oh wait, let me do this like that. You see a difference, of course. Quite funny here is the screws with that thing, and here's a screw also. So not bad, but of course you don't have this groove. And wait, let me get this out. And you have this here, what is not on this unit, unfortunately. So, and this is a minor complaint. I mean, if we want to talk about authenticity, I mean that how it looks certain. I mean then of course it's not the same, not really the same. Quite funny is also the type number. It's the NES E001, and this is CLV001. Okay, yes. So yes, there's some small little difference, but normally you will not notice. I think the biggest thing is what people just think is shit, that you can open the lid, more or less, you know, like here. Yeah, so that is actually the unit. Let's go to the controller and see how the controller stacks up to the original one. So this is the from the classic, and this is the original one. And yeah, and it feels the same, really the same. The buttons feel like that. The start and select also, and yeah, and that also. And yes, and it's the same size, it's no difference. And here you can see, because of the coloring, that's the older one, of course. So yeah, if we talk about the controller, even the weight, I mean, the weight is a little bit more because of the longer cable, but yeah. But if you talk about the controller itself, no, it has really the same weight. What is already a huge bummer with this controller is the cable is really, really short. It's really a short one. That is way too short. And unfortunately, there is no second controller because you have a lot of two-player games. And then you should purchase a second controller. Of course, it comes from, you pay something like 10, 20 euro for a second controller. But I think it would be nice if they included already one in the package. I mean, the second one in the package. That would be really, really cool. Yeah, but till now, I'm actually about the way how Nintendo presents their product. I mean, in the mini version is really, really, yeah, really good. We talk about the unit itself. Now let's move to my living room and then we will look at all the 30 games what comes with this system. Yeah, here we go. When you start up the mini console, you are greeted with a menu. From there you have access to all the 30 titles. You can sort the games by publisher, title, by two-player games, by recent play, by times played and by release date. Besides that, you have some other options at your disposal. The screen resolution is 720p and it's not adjustable. However, you can choose 3 screen options. The first is the CRT filter, which looks really horrible in action. The next one is in 4:3 image, which can produce some shimmering. And finally, the Pixel Perfect mode produced a perfect square pixel image without any shimmering. But as you guys can see, it's a little bit skinny. The system menu gives you access to a screensaver and an auto shutdown function, while the language option supports 8 languages. If you want to read the manuals of the original titles, there is a QR code for scanning. When you start up again and you press the reset button of the mini console, the game paused and you have the ability to save the current state of the games in 4 save slots of each title. And now, let's check the games in alphabetic order. Balloon Fight. An early title in the NES library. Released 1987 in PAL territory, Balloon Fight is a simple game. As an unnamed balloon fighter, the goal is to pop the balloons of the other players. Of course, the opposite will try the same with you. Together with a second player, it's short fun. Besides the versus mode, there is a balloon trip as an only single player experience. There you control the balloon fighter through the air and the main goal is to collect all balloons while avoiding the lightning spikes. Because of the simplicity, both modes of the game give not enough play value these days. Bobble. The single-screen arcade experience from Taito. In co-op or by yourself, you must finish 100 levels to rescue the kidnapped girlfriend. Because you or your teammate control both a dragon, you can blow bubbles to capture monsters. Each defeated enemy turns into food, and that gains points. Of course, how deeper you move into the caves, how harder the game experience. Like Balloon Fight, is this arcade port with a partner a better experience, and if you get used to this strange jumping behavior, this game can be a lot of fun. Castlevania. Step into the shoes of Simon Belmont and defeat the evil Dracula with your trusted whip vampire killer. If you don't read the menu, you don't get much storyline from this title. The game design is quite simple. Move to the end of the level before the timer runs out and defeat the final boss. The action experience is quite streamlined. With the whip, you defeat classic monsters. Collecting hearts gives you ammunition for a second weapon like a boomerang or holy water. If you like a challenge, then you will feel quite at home in Castlevania. But the movement of Simon is still slow. What always frustrated me is his reaction when he got hit. Then he jumps back, what it can lead to his death. Castlevania II. The storyline of the second experience with Simon takes place 7 years after the first installment. This is my least played Castlevania because it's a huge departure from the original concept. The first game was more an action title with straight levels, but Konami thought an open world experience with RPG elements would move the series in a good direction. From all my friends back then, nobody liked this game, and without a guide it's quite hard to know what to do next. I must admit, I still don't like this game, and while I recorded some footage for this video, this old hate came back again. Donkey Kong. An almost faithful port of the arcade version. Because of memory restrictions, Nintendo was forced to cut out an entire level and most of the cutscenes. So to beat this game, this just takes a couple of minutes. As Mario in his first adventure, you must climb up 3 towers to rescue the girlfriend Pauline. Is that done, the game restarts with a harder difficulty. And yes, Donkey Kong is a very short experience, but from a historical standpoint, a landmark title. Donkey Kong Jr. You want to see the evil side of Mario, then this arcade port is your thing. Guided by his hate for Donkey Kong, the Italian plumber kidnaps the giant ape, and his son must rescue him. Similar to the original, you have the ability to jump over things, but now you can climb on different objects also. Defeat the 4 levels to set your father free, and the game restarts with increased difficulty. Not so iconic like the original Donkey Kong, but an important title for Nintendo. Double Dragon 2. Before Final Fight there was Double Dragon. A 2-player side-scroll beaten-up experience which is still a big challenge even today. By yourself or with a colleague, you beat up criminals and revenge the death of your girlfriend. The save function of the NES Mini makes this game a little bit more easier. Dr. Mario. Not so addictive like Tetris, but this puzzle game is still a classic on its own. Produced by Gunpei Yokoi and released in 1990, this title got sold more than 10 million times. The gameplay is simple. Match the color of the vitamin capsules with the viruses and let them disappear. Is a level cleared, you move to the next one. In the option screen you can change the starting level, music and game speed. Dr. Mario offers a 2-player mode to compete with each other. Unfortunately, the NES Mini has only one controller. Excitebike. Designed, produced and directed by Shigeru Miyamoto, is this motocross racer a classic, until this day a very playable title. Alone or against enemy opponents, your goal is at least to achieve 3rd place or better. In total there are 5 tracks to drive on. Besides the normal acceleration, there is a nitro which heats up the engine. To cool it down, you can drive over arrows who are spread all over the tracks. A big feature on its release was the track editor, which had a save function with the Famicom Data Recorder tape drive. The cartridge version had unfortunately no save capabilities, but with the NES Classic Mini, this is possible now. Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy is a good example of a video game what the European player never saw on the NES in its original form, although there was an English translation produced by Nintendo of America. In 2003 the original Final Fantasy got released to the PlayStation in form of Final Fantasy Original, and for the first time for us, playable. If we talk about the storyline and game mechanics, is this original NES release very outdated, but from an historical standpoint, quite an important title. Galaga. This Namco arcade hit is a very simple but addictive shooter. You control a starfighter at the bottom of the screen, and an army of Galaga aliens try to destroy you. Besides shooting projectiles and try to collide with your ship, the aliens can capture you with the tractor beam. Shoot down all remaining enemies to move to the next level. If your basic motivation is always to make a better high score, then this title is for you. Ghosts and Goblins. If the setting of the game doesn't give you any nightmares, then the difficulty will do. Ghosts and Goblins is yet another arcade port of a popular title, which came home to the NES. Princess Prin is captured by Azeroth, king of the demon world, and you as Sir Arthur, an honorable knight, it's your task to kick some demon ass. You walk mostly from left to right and kill monsters with different weapons, and try to maneuver through the tough level structure. The game is quite challenging, and you need to beat it twice to see the real ending. I must admit, I never finished the game. Gradius. As a shooter fan, Gradius is from my point of view an historical title also, although I didn't play the game back on the NES when it got released. With this title, Konami paved the way for many video games in the side-scroll shooter genre. The power-up system was quite innovative, the music outstanding, and the level design combined with the difficulty and landmark title. Ice Climber. Not so popular than Excitebike or Super Mario Bros., Ice Climber was more or less a hidden gem back on his release. Alone or together with a friend, you must climb up 32 ice-covered mountains. Your only weapon is a hammer to destroy ice blocks to open a path to the exit. Because of the tricky, jumping mechanics and multiple moving platforms, this title is challenging also. Kid Icarus. Even after all this time, this platform game is still not my thing. I don't know why, but the gameplay combined with the level design is very unattractive to me. So in that case, I can tell so much about this game, because after some minutes I just want to turn it off. I know it has its fans and belongs on the NES Classic, but for me it's not really my thing, so next one please. Mario Bros. This title is the original story of Super Mario Bros. In this single-screen jump and run, you clean up with both brothers the sewage pipes of Brooklyn. But before defeating a creature, you must flip them over on their back, and then you are able to kick them off screen. If you're surrounded, you have always the possibility to hit the pole block. The simple concept shows still the original arcade roots of this title. Mega Man 2. After lackluster sales of the first game, the second adventure of Mega Man on the NES found finally an audience and cemented the success of the series, what is still active till this day. With the Blue Bomber, you must defeat 8 rogue robot masters to face Dr. Wily and stop him in his tracks. One of the biggest challenges of the series was to find the right order to defeat the robot masters. In these modern times, with a short Google search, a simple task, but back then we didn't have this kind of luxury. Metroid. I must admit that the first Metroid didn't make a good impression on me back on the NES. I don't know why, but with this title I felt disconnected. That changed with Super Metroid on the Super Nintendo. So I can tell much about the original Metroid, but from the historical standpoint and landmark title, which of course need a place on the NES Classic. Ninja Gaiden. We Europeans know the side-scroller with a different name, Shadow Warriors. For us kids back then, this title was famous for two things, his awesome cutscenes and the intense difficulty. I didn't know anybody of my friends who could beat this game. You take control over the ninja Ryu Hayabusa, and with your trusted katana you slice through enemies. In many ways this game is like Castlevania, just on ecstasy. Besides climbing walls, you have some ninja magic as secondary weapon, but even then this game is still fucking hard. Pac-Man. A game but didn't need any kind of introduction. This fairly faithful port of the coin-op original is on the NES still a lot of fun, and the simple and addictive nature doesn't need any kind of tutorial. Punch-Out! Oh, I don't like boxing games, and even after recording some footage, I just wanted to turn off this game, so my knowledge is limited in this case. By the way, Mario is the referee. Startropics. Another title what I never played before, so this is my first time playing it. After around half an hour I lost interest, and I must admit I moved on to the next game. Super C. We PAL kids know this title under a different name, Probotector II, Return of the Evil Forces. Besides the name, Konami changed the main protagonist into robots, like the predecessor, and I was a little bit unhappy to play the original version, because I got so much used to play the European variant. But this aside, Super C is a terrific action title. Besides side-scrolling sections, there are some overhead levels, and in both you shoot everything in your path and move forward to face an end boss. Together with a buddy is still a good fucking co-op experience. Super Mario Bros. Like many other gamers who bought an NES back in the days, this title is very special because it was packaged with the system itself. I played this jump'n'run already before I had my NES because in a local supermarket there was a console on display. So with our bikes we went 10 kilometers to the next city just to play Super Mario Bros. For a short while. This game is timeless, and even after all these decades it plays awesome. A landmark title for the system and the genre. Super Mario Bros. 2. When I played this for the first time, I noticed that something was wrong with the Western version of Super Mario Bros. 2. It played so different, and very fast I didn't like the gameplay and the presentation. Years later I discovered of course the real truth behind this release, and I was a little bit angry that Nintendo thought that we Western players are not tough enough to play the original Japanese version. Finally, in 1993 we had the chance to play the real second part of Super Mario Bros. With Super Mario Bros. The Lost Level on the Super Nintendo. Super Mario Bros. 3. Thanks to my friends, I really got hyped for Super Mario Bros. 3. Because we didn't have so much money, just one of us could afford this jump'n'run with a little financial help of his parents. When he got the title, he called everybody, and with a big open eyes we sit in his room and watched while he was playing. I was captivated by the level design and the creative ideas. But unfortunately, I never bought Super Mario Bros. 3 back in these days because I was already saving my money for my Super Nintendo. Tecmo Bowl. Because I don't like American football, this sports game was never a thing for me back then, and while I recorded some footage, I understand why it was on release a popular title, especially in America. But it didn't entertain me at all, so let's move on to the next game. The Legend of Zelda. Wow, the original Legend of Zelda gave me a new perspective what is possible with a video game. Unfortunately, I never had it in my possession when I was a kid, but I played it a lot with friends. Together we tried to solve the puzzles, and every time when we finished a dungeon, it was like a revelation. Already the front package gave the impression that the title must be something really awesome. Like Super Mario Bros., a landmark title for the action-adventure genre. Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. After playing this game for a short while, I noticed I really didn't like it. Like Super Mario Bros. 2, this was different in so many ways. The new action perspective was unusual in its presentation, and it really bothered me that Link's sword was so short. So it happened quite often that I got hit by an enemy. The only cool thing for me, besides the soundtrack, was the golden cartridge. And that is the NES Mini Classic. As a collector and video game fan, I must admit this mini console is a must-buy. Of course, the system has some small issues like the missing second controller and the short cable. Besides that, I would put some other games on the console like Castlevania 3 or Nintendo World Cup, but that is always a question about what kind of games consider somebody as classic. If you want to dive into the past of Nintendo, then the NES Mini Classic is a good solution, but don't expect to get it for a small budget. And that's it with this video. If you guys like my content, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. If you want to leave a comment, I would be happy about that also. So guys, see you next time, and please don't forget to support your local video game store.